the Zodiac Mafia, just to kind of introduce it, is the idea that there are three signs that people often underestimate or don't take seriously. And there really are two. One, I don't think people underestimate as much, but I think this one is worthy to put in. The two are Pisces and Libra, and the other third one is Capricorn. So in order, it would be Libra as the Don of the Zodiac Mafia, which I'll explain what a Don is. And then the Capo is Capricorn of the Zodiac Mafia. The darker side of it. And so I picked those three, even though I could have picked others, as who will follow through. Now, I don't think if we're just talking signs, and I recognize I'm talking signology, right? So, this is not me saying this fits everyone and, blah, and some people do take it personally. I'm like, don't. If we're going to talk about signs as we do in popular culture, and it's all for jokes and fun. This is along that line, but it has some instruction to it. So in terms of, punching it up, there's some signs I don't think fit in the Zodiac Mafia, and one of them is my sun sign, Scorpio. And people are always surprised, like, don't you think Scorpio should be in it? No, because Scorpio, because of the Martian sensibility matched with the water, they take the joke too far, so to speak, as we say. They go too far with it. So they may go in like, I'm going to burn their houses down, but not get out of the house in time, right? So there's a way in which Scorpio somehow gets ensnared in their own nonsense. And someone, I didn't even bring this up, someone on Twitter said like, oh, that whole thing that's happened between Drake, who's a Scorpio, and Kendrick Lamar, who's a Gemini. Yeah, like Sam said, this is why, Drake, the Scorpio, kind of got burned in his own mess, because he supposedly started it. That was very Scorpionic. And this is what I've seen from many Scorpios. They kind of start off like, I'm going to get them back. And then they don't fully follow through, or they follow through in such a way that they get ensnared in it. What about Aries? With Aries, they're kind of like, well, if they have to kind of persevere with it too long, it's kind of like, well, I need to do something else. Taurus is actually a candidate, but the thing with Taurians is that you really have had to prod at them and push them far enough for them to kind of want to get away from the chill to do that. And then once they've satisfied that, what like let you know that they're angry, they're off. They've kind of pulled back. Do I need to talk about Gemini? I mean, Gemini is kind of like, I'll get you in the moment, but I don't need to keep thinking about how I'm going to exact my revenge or, write the scales on you. I'm just going to do it because it's fun and I can do it in that moment. Cancer's similar. Cancer's also an interesting candidate. Cancers probably commit more, what's the phrase? Acts of passion in the moment rather than sustained revenge. In fact, I think the FBI, there are more cancers on the FBI most wanted lists, usually. And that's not so much by virtue of them, acting out, acts of revenge over a long period of time or things like that. It's like, basically, I killed you in that moment, you said, with those knives that you gave me for Christmas. So it's kind of like they feel that. I don't think I need to talk about Leo. Leo's like, did you say something to me, boo? Were you trying to hurt me? Oh, I had no idea. Virgo has come up a lot. And I'm on the fence about putting them in the Zodiac Mafia. They have the exactitude, they have the level of precision, but they also have high anxiety, right? So I don't know if they can feel the commitment to it long term without the anxiety or the anguish or thinking and then rethinking. Like,
because they're talking themselves out of it,
right?
It's just like it just can't get it right, can't get it perfect. So they talk themselves right out of it.
They talk themselves out of it, but they have some follow through. Like Chris Christie, in terms of his determination. I'm just here to derail Trump. I'm going to try to do as much as I can. Anthony Weiner, Virgo, take you out. It's interesting, but I haven't committed to it yet. I don't think I need to talk about Sag. Sag is kind of like, why bother? I mean, so life is too short to kind of be. Same thing I think for Aquarius. Like Aquarius probably is kind of like, I don't care. I mean, I think Aquarians can have tough and strong tempers. That's a dark side that we don't talk about with them as much. But I think to follow through and be committed to acts of retribution, I don't think so. So here's another. Sorry,
I would pause for a moment. I would say an Aquarius moon in the 4th would do whatever they needed to for their family.
I think that's true.
Yeah, but that's such a specific example.
Yeah, and I think Aquarians, well, one, there's a myth I don't believe. One, a lot of people think Aquarians are cold, and I haven't met many cold, soulless Aquarians as people describe. I mean, that's a good joke. We can make all the robot jokes like downloading emotions. But that's not been my experience of them. But because they can be so loyal to an ideal, that's where they can actually have a lot of emotional charge and will follow through. I mean, that was true for my father with the sense of family. So it's funny that you would say that. I mean, I don't know his rising sign. I always kind of play around with his rectified chart, but that's kind of the thing. Now, what ties the three together going back to Libra, Capricorn, and Pisces? Venus. Venus is the ruler of Libra. It is the triplicity ruler for Capricorn, especially during the day. And it is the exalted ruler for Pisces. And that really caught my attention with Venus, because Venus, as morning star in many cultures, whether we're talking about Mesoamerican culture or Mesopotamian culture, was greeted as auguring war and having a warrior side, which we don't acknowledge. Now, what's interesting, even in Greek myth, Aphrodite pretty much did start the Trojan War. And there is something to Venus being able to use charm, being able to use some measure of subtlety, and even some aspects of the power of attraction, luring someone in, that can undercut. And so I think that's something that runs through all three of those signs as the tie-in. You might say, well, that could go in with Taurus. Yeah, but like I said, Taurus as an earth sign can be lured more by the sense of pleasure, and rather than just the pain as much. But with Taurus, I still wouldn't completely rule it out. But that's the tie-in.
I just had a question around, this is something that's been playing on me for quite a while now. When we talk about Libra and wanting to be liked, I've seen a lot of discussion. There's one person I follow who was talking about, you need to learn to stand up for yourself. People pleasing is manipulative. And I don't think that's necessarily wrong. I think often it's out of survival. From my own experience, it's out of survival. But I'm always curious about, when we're talking about men and women in safety, why is the discussion always about creating boundaries? Why is the discussion never about learning to say no, or learning to take no for an answer? We celebrate people who don't take no for an answer. They can sell, they can just keep going and going and going. And so we're still having this one-sided discussion. And because of that, I'm going to defend Libra in the mafia, in that it has to use its gifts, right?
Sure.
Because of the environment that we live in at this time.
Yeah, I think
and Pisces too, the empathy, right? The having to use that gift because nobody's going to respect the boundaries anyways.
I sort of came, maybe I'm being a typical Scorpio and thinking I'm doing something that people already know, like YouTube might say to me like, oh, we knew that already, Sam. I sort of came out of the closet today, not the queer closet. I'm not in the queer closet, but I came out of the Machiavellian closet today on Facebook, where and I used a quote that is right here on my file cabinet here, where Machiavelli says, any man who tries to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good. And some people are taken aback by that and will greet it as cynical. But I think if you don't know how to protect yourself, and if you don't know how to advance your agenda, especially if your agenda is for the benefit of things, you're not going to make it successful. You asked me earlier about diversity. That came from forming an alliance and making something happen in a space where it could happen, with an eye on trying to make it happen in other places, like at ESAR. And that's an act of power. That's an act of being able to, this is why I kind of created the Zodiac Mafia, to kind of usurp people's idea that what you think is weak is actually quite strong. So I'm glad you're defending Libra. Well, I think we have a conclusion of sorts. We've gone more than a few circles.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Sam. This has been
Thank you.
really great.
Yeah.